Welcome to writingalong.com. Today's episode is all about writing to forget and connect. And those things seem very kind of not related at first. What do you mean forgetting? How am I going to forget and then connect? But I mean, that's the cornerstone of a lot of social activities between people for, ages, like centuries, thousands of years, however far back you want to go. There's some kind of disconnection you have. People intoxicate themselves. Alcohol is a very real cornerstone of how people interact with each other, right? You forget a lot of what's going on around you and you focus on what's in front of you exactly, which is still stuff that's around you, but it's like a focus. You're forcing yourself to become focused, which is something you can do naturally, but it's like a very instant way to, like a way to get there that's pretty much reliable. And this isn't an advocation of that at all, but it's not against that either. It's just admitting that that's part of human life, whether you partake in that as well or not. But in general, engaging in some kind of shared, like some act, you're not really thinking about everything else going on around you. You can't. There's stuff in front of you that's much more important. That this is what it's all about right now. This is what it is, and that's what happens when you're writing. Except it happens with yourself, which is funny because talking about social, kind of stuff like that, but you can be social with yourself. Like what? What are you talking about? It's that same enjoyment you can have when you're just so caught up in a moment that really fills you with just, joy. Just everything's okay. Everything makes sense. That kind of attitude, that kind of feeling. You have that by yourself when you write. And because that's all it really is. You're so focused on your words on the page that you lose kind of track. While you're writing, you're not thinking that, the earth is at an axis of this exact, all these degrees, all of this, it's going at this speed, and that's relative to this force, and in this country this is happening. Oh, a car crash just happened over there. This shore right here is affected by this oil spill. Like, you can't be thinking of all this at once, especially when your mind is just fed everything throughout the day, though, with your job or if you're in schooling, all this stuff. It fills up your head, and you can't concentrate. You can't focus. It leaves you just wanting to just have some kind of calmness, some kind of peace. Sometimes the internet is great, checking up on all these people. But after a while, sometimes you have these moments where it's like, it's too much. I don't want to know, but yet it's just kind of addicting. Like, oh, what's going on now, And it's almost just kind of becoming not like against it, not like you hate it, nothing like that, but it's just resentful of it. And because of that, where do you find moments of peace like that? Where do you find moments where you can just kind of forget, And you got to notice too, what was in common with all these things I was talking about before. These social gatherings, this thing where people forget about everything else going on. They're connecting. It's almost like that's the vehicle. Like that's the place where it really happens, where you can actually get close to someone and just be like, oh yeah, this is because we're not thinking of everything else right now. And this is what matters here. We're able to really get along. And that's what writing is, again, but just with yourself. You're getting along with yourself, and you're being able to relay certain information, certain thoughts and stuff like that. All that kind of stuff that I talk about all the time on these episodes. It happens when you're in front of the page and you're focused on it. And there are ways you can get focused on it. You can put on some music if you want to. You can put on white noise. You can be, you can go to the beach. I bet you there's going to be other people there that might influence and just kind of be like, more noise. There's always something going on. But if you just find a space for yourself, you can carve it out. It could be loud around you. You can be on a train. You can be on a bus. You can be in the passenger seat of a car, in the back seat. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you want to enough, you can carve and create this space for yourself, almost like this sphere is surrounding you, and nothing can really penetrate that or get in the way. And that's the product of some intense focus that you have with writing. And the more you do it, the more you want to do it, which is interesting as well, because it's connecting. It's because the world around you is just kind of, it didn't stop. It still exists, but it's slowed down relatively. If time is relative, if time and space are relative, then in your mind's perception of it, it may as well not exist outside of what's going on in front of you when you're writing. And it's a beautiful place to be. It's a great place to be not just as a writer, but I just mean in general. Like, you can just relax and let your mind calm down. And that's where all these self-understandings, that's where all these self-revelations come. You can't have them when you're just crowded, when your mind is a crowded space from all these external forces that are just distracting you, really. And it's weird, but when you actually are able to silence your mind, the stuff you do perceive, you're able to choose it. And because of that, it's so much more heightened. Like it's so much more clear. It's this like scary level of focus you're able to get on certain things. If you calm your mind while you're writing and you're not really focused on everything else and you do decide to focus on one thing, it's like the whole picture tube in your imagination, if you want to visualize it like that, it's completely like the image of what you're focusing on is blown up on the ceiling. If the ceiling of your mind is a screen, what you focus on is there. You're able to see so much dimension, so much detail, so much little stuff that no one else would ever really see or notice. And for yourself, it's just you gotta really take stock of that, and it's kind of humbling. It's this like invigorating experience. Like wow, I'm looking at this, and I can change. You can change that channel. I use the TV as an example because everyone's for the most part is familiar with the television. If you're watching this, you're watching me on YouTube or something, right, on your phone, or if you're just listening to the audio, like digital stuff, that kind of world. It's like being able to select, but not just tuning into something, not just tuning into riding along, not just tuning into your favorite show. I mean, tuning into some part of reality, some part of the world around you, and selecting it yourself. It's like everything is a channel, and you get to choose what you're watching. And because of that, it's this unique place. It's not, you can't get it from somewhere else, but you find it in yourself when you do that, when you're focused through writing. And whatever it takes to get you there, I'm serious. Listen to music if it helps you, whatever you need to. But if you find silence as well, that's a great, I think it's a great place to start. It's a place you can eventually get to as well. It really just depends how your mind works. But I want you to realize that you are, by forgetting about everything, you're connecting. You're connecting with yourself. You're connecting dots that are going on in the background. You're seeing things a little more clear because you're choosing what you see. And yeah, that's not sustainable. I mean, if you can live a life of that kind of monk-like meditation, all the power to you. Awesome. But as a writer, you don't just stay there and live there your whole life. I mean, you jump back into the sea of everything going on, the sea of seeing, right? Like this just sea of seeing scenes, like with that kind of stuff. Like your mind just gets caught up in these, like in everything around you. It's like you're jumping onto the highway, and okay, cool, I'm part of life. But again, when you start writing, it's like you freeze time. It's like you create a space for yourself. This like whatever you want it to look like, whatever you are desiring right now, if your mind is constantly being bombarded with stuff. If you on YouTube or something, you're going to see the YouTube recommendations. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff you'd like to watch next, and then you're going to watch something next, and all this kind of stuff. If you're on a podcast, you're going to listen to something else. But again, that in itself it's really cool because you're choosing what you want to. But sometimes everything just starts adding up, and it's like it feels like you can't stop it. Like you're the one making the decision to watch stuff, to pay attention to stuff. But at the same time, there's these other forces, these other factors that are influencing you, and your mind just becomes so crowded. You don't hear your own thoughts anymore, and sometimes you may think other people's thoughts are your own, and that's a really scary place to be. And you don't realize that until you get to these places. People find this in all kinds of ways. I mean, they do it. So, like there's so many different things, so much forms of self-expression that get you here. You can just do like straight up meditation if you want to, and that doesn't mean it has to look like anything. It just means focusing on something, and the result of that is that state of mind, and you reach there, like I said, with writing, and it's sustainable. You don't got to buy it on a street corner, like you don't got to buy it from a store. Like it's there. You can do it whenever you want to, for the most part, right? You'll find time for yourself. There's always time you can carve out and make for yourself, and everything else comes natural. It comes next. It's the next step that really it visits you. It arrives, and it's a really peaceful place. It's really nice and pleasant, and beyond that, it's just a great place to write from. You'll find your writing actually comes a lot clearer when you are kind of just writing to forget. And by forgetting, you can choose what you're focusing on, and what you choose to focus on, you're able to connect with more deeply, and you're able to connect it more deeply with yourself and your words. You can connect the words to apply to these things that you're focusing on. It's such a, like I said, a heightened experience. Everything is just times 10, not times 10, it's just multiplied and infinitely. And there's no exaggeration there, because you can talk about anything. You can look at the details of something when you're focusing on it forever. It's infinite. It really is. And you get to get a little glimpse of that experience of that. When everything's limited, everything's finite. but you can kind of enter that realm as a writer and make it a place that you come to know, that you visit regularly. Writing, yeah, you get words out and you get to express yourself. It's a great form of release and great form of getting ideas in people's heads so that they can understand and see through your eyes and see through what you're seeing or what you want to show people, show others. But it's a little selfish sometimes too, because you get to experience this place and you want to keep coming back to it. And if you don't know what it is, you may just got a glimpse of it. It's real. Like, it's not just something you experience this one time. It's a phenomenon. It's something you can keep revisiting for your whole life. It doesn't go away. Treasure writing, and writing treats you really well. I'd like to really put that forth, that idea in your head as well. Writing is a great friend. Like, it's a great part of yourself to develop. It doesn't go away. You don't just find one day where to go. Where's writing? Like, no, writing, if you develop it, if you dedicate yourself to it, it's with you. It's going to stick with you longer and more reliably than anything else. Check out How to Write a Book in 30 Days at writingalong.com. It's on my website, completely free. Let it haunt your inbox. Let it sit in your inbox and remind you to write a book. You've got to write your book. There's no waiting around anymore. There really isn't. I would like to see you write it, and I know you can. Thanks for tuning in today. I'll see you on the next episode.